Good afternoon. This is Brandon with Implementation Specialist. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today on some of our top WS tools specifically for Dynamics GP. I'm joined here with Cheryl Simmons, who will be leading most of our conversation today. But before I hand it over to her, please know that today's webinar is being recorded. And so you will get a copy of that you can refer back to at any time. Also, feel free to share it with your friends. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, I'll be monitoring the questions and chat window, so you can put that in your GoToWebinar questions or chat window there. And if we have time, I'll also make sure that we take everyone off of mute, and you could ask your questions that way. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Cheryl.
All right, well, thanks, Brandon, for kicking us off. And as Brandon said, we're going to cover GP tools today. And again, some people call them features, enhancements. We cover all gamuts, but the tools today are specific to GP, and we're going to talk about probably about 20 of them. And so I know we only have a half hour scheduled, so I'll try to keep focused and keep moving. So Brandon, you can set me straight if I start to stray a little bit there.
You know I will.
All right. Well, over here, to make your day easier are the tools we're going to talk about, and we kind of broke them down into the different series. And first off, we're going to start on financials, and you can see the order there. So I'll flip over to the financial series, and we have 5 tools listed here. And all the way from, and these I would say are financial, more generic, I guess we'll say, but they do integrate into a few different areas. So first one is inventory round. And this one is great for customers who have, receiving in quantities and dollar amounts for inventory items where you end up with decimal place or rounding issues, right? So let's say 3 items for $100. Just doesn't divide evenly, right? It's like you're off that penny. And again, you could talk larger dollars, right, which would be much more than a penny. But what this tool allows it to do is take care of that penny difference so that you really have 3 items at $3.33, $33.33, and takes care of the penny for you up front. Versus 2 at $33.33 and 1 at $33.34. I mean, again, just gives them all to have that same dollar amount. So that's what inventory round's all about. And one thing, like I said, Brandon, we're going to go pretty quick through these, but if customers have questions on any of these, feel free to put them in the questions panel, as well as the sales team would definitely arrange for a demo of any of these tools afterwards as well. So just want to throw that out too. So as we're kind of jumping through all these. All right, on to the next one, posting control. And this gives you more capability in restricting who gets to post things. And so if somebody's been in and they've accessed different batches, you don't want them to be able to post those batches. And so again, it just allows more control over who's editing, who's posting, and that's what that one does. Simply use, and this one is very powerful. It's use tax. And so if you are a customer that needs to be recording use tax and track that within GP, you can do it with our product. And this is, again, on the purchasing side, so we're talking about in payables and in purchase order, as well as if you use the key to act, job cost and service, it'll be applicable to those modules as well. And again, we're using the GP tax schedules, and so all of your reporting would be inside of GP, just like you're doing your sales tax reporting. And again, there's a lot more to this one than I could summarize in a quick minute or so, but a very powerful tool. And you can see there of, it records the use tax, it backs it out so that your invoice is still recorded just for your invoice, but it's also creating that general journal entry for the use tax as well. GL Bank Bridge. So this is if a customer is logging in a transaction straight into General Ledger and it's hitting a checkbook account, it's going to ask you if you want to add that also to the bank entry window. Reason being is if you're affecting your bank account for your checkbook, you probably should have a checkbook transaction. And so this is kind of that little reminder of, don't forget, we should also update bank reconciliation for that. And you have the ability, of course, to add the transaction, or if it strictly should not be and just be a GL, you can choose cancel, of course, on this one. But again, just kind of safeguards your, if you're entering directly in GL, to the checkbook account, does that double checking for you. Summary recalc, and this is for both the customer and vendor. So again, I know it was under financials, but it's a very powerful tool. And this one gets into, you know, when you run year-end closing, it's not time sensitive. You don't really say, okay, it's December 31st, I'm going to run year-end closing, right? Those year-end closings, you know, sometimes you run a little later into January if you're running, you know, through December. And this gives you the capability to run year-end when you need to. And this tool will recalculate all of those aging buckets, your current calendar, current fiscal year, and then based on the dates, it'll recalculate your aging buckets, or your summary buckets, I should call them, onto your reports, onto your smart list, wherever you have those showing up, and make sure that they're accurate. Because I know we always want to run payable checks probably faster than we get the closing done, right? And so this allows you that capability to do that, and then recalculate and have all your vendor records up to date. Okay. So that was financial. And I know we're moving pretty quick, but we are up to purchasing. I'll go ahead and do this section, and then I'll check back in with you, Brandon, on
Perfect.
questions as well, okay? First one up on the purchasing side is Quick PO. And this gives you the capability to have a purchase order created via email. So that's pretty cool. So where does this come into play? So if let's say a technician, or you have a service person outside of the environment, and they need to pick up something, let's say at Home Depot or something, you know, to make a repair, what they can do is send you an email. It actually takes that information and sends it into GP and creates kind of a start of a purchase order for you, but then it will also send that PO number back to the person who's requested it, the technician that's requested it. And so they can give that then to Home Depot, wherever they're at, because sometimes those PO numbers are required in order to do those purchases. And then, of course, they can give you the receipt later, so you can get the rest of that PO entered in correctly. So again, it allows that process to happen without having to call into the back office, get somebody to stop what they're doing, correct, you know, start a PO for them, etc. So it's an automatic process that can happen in the background for you. Next up is our PO and PM vendor change, and I'll talk about both of these together because very similar. They're just in different windows, and what people love this tool. Right,
yep,
Brandon?
it is probably our most popular. Actually, no, it is our most popular GP tool.
GP tool. So here, when you've created a purchase order, and let's say you send it out to the vendor, and they're like, nope, I can't fulfill that. I don't have those quantities. And then you call up a different vendor and say, hey, do you have these? Do you have these items that I'm looking for? And they're like, you sure do. Well, what you can do is go in and pull up the purchase order. Under the additional menu here, you have the ability to switch to a different vendor ID. Brings up this window. You just type it in, click commit, and it'll go back and update your original purchase order, as well as any products integrating into that window as well. So again, very cool. You won't have to rekey the whole purchase order over again. And or, you know, sometimes it happens is you pick the wrong vendor, especially if you have names that are very similar in the window. This allows that capability to get the right vendor in there. There are some restrictions, I would say, of just to be aware of, like if you've already started the process, any of that kind of stuff, you know, then you can't be changing the vendor name. But yep, as long as you haven't done any receivings against it, those type of things. And then, as we said, very similar, we have the payable side too, the PM vendor change. So this is just in your payables transaction entry window where you would be doing the exact same thing. Again, you've entered a transaction, found out that, whoop, got the wrong vendor when I entered that invoice. This gives you that ability to change that before you actually post and process the transaction. So again, it's unposted when you're making these changes. All right. And the last one here for the payable side is the PM unapply. And what this comes in handy is if you've had transactions that have been applied together and realize that, oops, I applied it to the wrong document. It allows you to bring the transactions back. So basically unapply your, let's say, payment from the invoice, bring it back into your open file, and then if you had needed to apply the payment to a different invoice, credit memo, etc., it allows you to do that without having to void the documents and recreate them. So again, it's just bringing back from history to the open and unapplying those records. I think now is maybe a good time just to stop, Brendan, and check in with you and see, is there any questions out there?
No questions, however, right after the PO vendor change, got a cool with an exclamation point. So
excellent,
yes.
Excellent. Somebody likes that one. Yeah. That's good to hear. All right, well, we'll step into the next section, which is system. So the first feature under system is drawer. And this used to be called HR drawer, in case you've heard that before. I always want to preface that in case you've heard the old tool name. And now we call it just drawers because it is for customers, vendors, employees, and inventory items as well. And this gives you the capability to have 10 folders that you can put attachments into per those employees, customers, vendors, and items. And so the security is set up per folder. And so in this case, on my screen here, I'm showing the employee piece. And let's say that only certain people can view the application and resume, right? You want that information probably to the hiring manager, but maybe not to, everybody else. But there's probably certain documents like the I-9 folder that really that's an HR folder, and that's who should see that. And again, you could grant security just for the HR people to that folder, where the hiring manager then can't see the I-9 folder. And then you just double click and you can, or right click, and you can add documents into these folders. And again, they're secured. Some common questions we get, Brandon, is can you change the name? Yes. You can change the name of the folders that are listed here. Can you change the color? No. And the reason you can't change the color is that's really how the security is driven, because again, you can change the name. So we just need to be able to identify what they are, and right now we're identifying those through the colors. Just in case anybody was going to ask those questions, got those out.
You probably stopped them.
Yes. Speed switch. So this one is used for those customers that have more than one company, and they're switching from company to company quite frequently. Previously with Microsoft, there was some code in there that was calculating the number of employees that you had in each of the companies as you did your login. And we no longer have registration that way anymore. And so this particular tool overrides that functionality and allows you to get in faster. And so that's what this is all about, is saving precious time in your day versus switching companies and getting coffee, as you might need to do. So.
Well, you can still get coffee.
Yeah, you still might need that break every now and then.
A little less time.
You got it. Next ID, just for customers and vendors, allows you to put in a sequence number. So for your numbering system, so people don't have to think about, okay, what should that next number be for customer and vendor? You can have it default in from the setup window. Small little change there. And then this last slide for this section just talks about GP integrations overall. And so we have a 1095 importer that allows you to bring in that data to get those 1095s to your employees. A time import, again, bringing in data. It could be from a time clock application or something that you just want to bring in some data into payroll. And then we have others that we've done very specific to, like Subway as an example, right? Or Epic, etc. And so there are specific products that need to be fed into GP. We do those as well. And so if you have something that you're like, oh, if I wouldn't have to retype this all the time or import it all the time, we can have that set up automatically with an integration. All right, over to the sales side. We have just a couple over here on the sales. Payment reapply. And I'm betting if I asked a customer online that they would say it could happen, right? They accidentally get the payment entered in for the wrong customer and applied to something that it shouldn't be. Well, this really allows you to void and unapply it and then reapply it to a new customer. And that's where you kind of see the from customer to customer on the screen. It allows you to do just partial of it, of the unapply, versus the, and avoid. It just, you can pick and choose what you need to there if you need to send it to a different customer. So again, just allows that flexibility of having to do so many steps to get it done. Where here it's one window, you could do it all at once if that's what you need to do. So cool tool for receivables. And quick collect. And this one's all about your past due customers, and no one likes to go chasing past due accounts, right? So this gives you the ability to set it up to automatically send email reminders and let people know that, hey, you have invoices that have just reached the 60-day mark, 60-day past due. And again, just putting that reminder out there versus having to make a phone call, having to sit down yourself and look those customers up. This is automatically can do this set up on a schedule that you define to send those reminders. So, all right, over to HR and payroll, because we got a few of those customers as well. Next up, payroll rewind. So this gives you the ability to void a piece, not necessarily voiding the whole payroll batch, but let's say you had one thing that you got everything in, you've built the checks, I'll say, built the check batch, and you find out that there's some information that you need to change, right? And you can be like, oh, don't process this one, I want to bring this one back, rewind this one employee, make the changes, and re-get that back into the batch again, so for the full payroll processing. And so again, just if you have payroll and you have those situations where occasionally something goes wrong or it's not quite right, Payroll Rewind is the tool for you to check out. And then there's the payroll handoff. And this, again, is more of that security piece where the person who creates the check batch and has everything ready isn't really the person who should be processing the checks. Because that checks and balances across the way in accounting, people love checks and balances. This is just another one of those tools that enforces that the person who's doing the check building is not the person who's doing the ultimate processing. Then we have a couple of reports as well, and these ones, Brandon, are we still?
Yep, these ones are free.
Yeah.
So you can just contact us on these next two that Cheryl's going to be talking about.
I hate to say, I hate to say free. You as a sales guy like to say free.
Yeah.
So this is a refreshable report. So this gives you the capability to pull out the data for your actuals versus budgets. And so you can see how that is after you do, let's say, every pay run, right? Are we on track for where we think we are? And again, it's refreshable, so it allows you to get real-time data after you do each one of your pay runs. And then the PTO liability report. And so this is if you are doing the accruals that you want to keep track of how much vacation do you owe your employees and have that accrued into your general ledger. This report helps get that information as well as helps you get it into general ledger as well. And as Brandon said, these are free, and so if you are interested in these two, just reach out to sales@iscorp.biz or Brandon directly if you happen to have his email as well, and we'll make sure to get those delivered to you.
And it looks like the free comment worked, so Mike, I will absolutely follow up with you on these reports.
All right, good deal. All right, so Brandon, we have something coming up here. I know you're going to take a couple minutes to talk about that.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you, Cheryl. So this is not tools related. This is more fun related. So here at on August 19th, we're just going to have a fun day and really show our appreciation to you in you being our customers. We hope that you can come join us for a day full of just some food, prizes, the beverage of your choice, and if you so choose, play golf. I know everyone is on our team is getting very excited, preparing some games, and so we hope you can join us at Holly Golf Club here on August 19th. It's free. Just bring yourself, and we hope you can join us. So,
and again, if they want more information, Brandon, I think you'd be the perfect person to reach out to.
Absolutely, and there's more details as well on our website.
Excellent. Yeah, and let's hope for nice weather this year.
No kidding.
Last year was a little cold, I have to say. But,
it was.
Well, that concludes our walkthrough today. Again, it was kind of a quick overview of our GP tools and all the different that we had, and there was again about 20 of those that we kind of hit the highlights on within the different series. And so I'd ask if you have, again, questions on any of those, we can certainly answer those. Now, Brandon, is there anything in the question tab, or are we good?
There is not.
Okay, we must have covered them pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, reach out if you have questions, or if you want, a personal demo to walk through specific tools, which is really what I'd recommend if you want to get a little bit deeper into the content of how this works and get to see it in action. I know Brandon and I like to demo the tools, but in this time frame, we just feel like we just had enough time to do that.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, anything else?
No, that a lot of information to cover. There is definitely some pre-recorded past webinars or demos of each of the tools. But as Cheryl mentioned, we actually like talking to you in person and demoing, and make sure we get those questions specifically answered for you. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.